The moment a 70-year-old woman snapped her fingers at a TV judge and said, "Listen, little girl, you work for me," the entire studio knew something catastrophic was about to happen. You could feel the temperature drop, the audience stopped breathing, the bailiff's shoulders tensed, the camera operators tightened their grip and zoomed in, framing every tiny twitch on the judge's face and every ounce of smugness on the woman's. Judge Helena Cole didn't move. At 82 years old, with more than 20,000 cases under her belt, she had seen every kind of liar, every kind of manipulator, every kind of "do you know who I am?" personality. But this one was special, because standing at the defendant's podium was Margaret Doyle, 70 years old, expensively dressed, pearl earrings catching the light, who had just called an 82-year-old judge a little girl and was now lecturing her about respect. In less than 5 minutes, those words would cost Margaret $3,000. They'd cost her the reputation she'd spent decades carefully pretending to have, and they'd turn her into the internet's most hated respect your elders villain. But to understand how satisfying this moment really is, you have to know how we got here, because this didn't start in a TV studio. It started a year earlier, through the lens of a young wedding photographer who thought talent, hard work, and kindness were enough to keep him safe. His name was Imran Malik. At 29, Imran had the kind of portfolio most photographers spend a lifetime chasing. He'd started with a used camera in his parents' tiny apartment, shooting friends' engagements for almost nothing. He'd learned light the hard way: sunrise shoots, harsh noon sun, golden hour on rooftops. He watched hours of tutorials, interned for free, saved every extra dollar for better lenses. By the time he turned 27, Malik Moments photography was booked almost every weekend. Brides cried happy tears looking at their galleries. Grooms posted his shots as their profile pictures for years. Venues recommended him without hesitation. He didn't just show up, click, and leave. He carried emergency stain remover for brides, safety pins, extra bobby pins, a needle and thread, granola bars, tissues tucked in his camera bag. He'd quietly fix boutonnieres, calm down panicking bridesmaids, smooth the groom's tie before the first look. He was the photographer and the unofficial crisis manager, and he did it all with one rule: never take on a wedding you can't give 1,000% to. For 6 years it worked. Then Margaret Doyle walked into his studio. She arrived exactly 10 minutes late and made sure he knew it was a favor she'd come at all. Her perfume entered the room before she did, sharp and expensive. She wore a cream blazer, gold watch, hair set in a flawless salon blowout. Her handbag alone probably cost more than Imran's first camera. She didn't sit until she'd scanned the studio, eyes lingering on his framed photos. "These are decent," she said finally, lowering herself into the chair opposite him. "I suppose you'll do." Imran smiled politely and tapped his tablet awake. "So, Mrs. Doyle, tell me about the wedding," he said. "Date, venue, style, let's start there." She exhaled like it was exhausting to repeat herself. "My granddaughter Olivia is getting married in June. Country club ceremony, evening reception, black tie. Everything has to be perfect. I'm paying for the photographer, so I make the decisions." Imran had seen that dynamic before. Bride's family wanting one thing, grandparents another. It could get messy if he wasn't careful. "Is Olivia coming today?" he asked. "I always like the couple involved in planning their own coverage." "She's busy," Margaret said sharply. "She trusts my judgment, and trust me, I know what a proper wedding should look like." Red flag. He noted it mentally, then moved on. They went over his packages. 8 hours coverage, separate engagement shoot, second shooter for ceremony and reception, online gallery, album options, print rights. Margaret's eyes narrowed at the prices, but not in the usual way. Not calculating cost, calculating leverage. "That's higher than the other quotes I got," she said. Imran nodded. "I understand. I'm also including an extra hour of coverage, free, because it's a full day and I don't want you to feel rushed." He didn't mention that he'd already discounted it because the venue was one he wanted in his portfolio. Margaret leaned back, steepling her fingers. "I'll tell you what," she said. "I'll pay your full rate, but in return I expect you to go above and beyond. No attitude, no excuses. I want every moment captured. No, I missed it or the lighting wasn't right. Understood?" Imran's stomach twisted slightly at the tone, but he'd heard variations of it before. "I always do my best," he said. "That's in writing." He slid the contract over. Coverage hours, delivery timeline, preview in 7 days, full gallery in 6 - 8 weeks. specific shots requested, payment schedule, cancellation policy. He went through every point. He'd learned the hard way that assumptions kill businesses. So he said, "This section artistic discretion. It means I shoot and edit in my style, which you've seen online. I can't guarantee specific poses will look exactly like Pinterest boards, but I'll do my best to match the vibe." She waved a dismissive hand. "I don't care about your artistic whatever. Just make sure everyone looks good, especially me, and get lots of photos of my friends. They are important people." He added it to the shot list. Extra photos with grandmother plus her friends. Timeline 6-8 weeks after the wedding, he said, tapping that line. "You'll get a curated gallery of at least 800 edited photos, likely more." "I'm 70 years old," Margaret said sharply. "I don't have time to wait around months for pictures. We have people flying in from Europe. I want the full set in 3 weeks." "I can't promise full delivery in 3, he said carefully, "because I never rush editing, but I can guarantee a large preview, maybe 60-80 photos within a week, so you can share with guests." "Young man," she said, leaning forward, "I'm paying you in full. You'll find a way." Imran kept his tone calm. "I'll write 7 days for the preview, 6 to 8 weeks for the full gallery. Anything faster will be a bonus. If that doesn't work for you, I understand. If you want to consider other photographers who might be more flexible with their process." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she snatched the pen, scribbled her name at the bottom of the contract, and slapped it back down. "I don't have time to read every little word," she said, "but fine, I'll trust you." That sentence, casual and arrogant, would become the core of her defense later. She paid the 50% retainer by card, stood, adjusted her blazer, and delivered the line that should have chilled him to his bones. "Just so you know, Mr. Malik," she said, "I'm very well connected. If you do a good job, I can send you a lot of business. If you disappoint me, well, people listen to me." Then she smiled a slow, thin smile that didn't reach her eyes and left. Imran stared at the closed door for a few seconds, then looked down at the signed contract. He'd done everything right. Clear terms, written expectations, detailed shot list, red flags noted but mitigated. He told himself it would be fine. He had no idea that this one signature would drag him through a year of hell, or that the woman who just walked out would try to obliterate his livelihood, or that one day in a packed TV courtroom she'd look an 82-year-old judge in the eye and call her little girl, and that in return the judge would destroy her. The wedding day started like a dream. Clear blue sky, soft breeze, the country club grounds manicured within an inch of their lives, every hedge trimmed, every flower bed exploding with color. Imran arrived 2 hours before his contracted time, as he always did for big weddings. He liked to walk the grounds, map the light, find backup spots in case of sudden rain. His second shooter, Maya, met him in the parking lot. "How's the vibe?" she asked, slinging her camera bag over her shoulder. "We'll see," Imran said. "Bride seems sweet, grandmother." Intense? He wasn't exaggerating. Inside the bridal suite, Olivia, the bride, greeted him with genuine warmth. "Imran, I've been stalking your Instagram all week," she laughed. "I'm so excited you're here." She looked radiant already, hair halftone, robe tied at the waist, her eyes glowing that particular way only brides' eyes seemed to glow. "Thank you for trusting me," he said. "We're going to make this beautiful." Behind her, bridesmaids fussed with makeup palettes and curling irons. On the coffee table, a printed copy of the shot list he'd emailed weeks earlier lay marked up with notes. He relaxed. This part he knew how to handle. He captured details: the lace on her gown, the shoes, the rings, a delicate perfume bottle glittering in a patch of sunlight. He photographed laughter, a few happy tears, a quick hug between Olivia and her mom. Then the door opened. Margaret swept in. She didn't greet Imran. She didn't greet the bridesmaids. She walked straight to the mirror, glanced at her reflection, and frowned. "Olivia, darling," she said, "your hair is a little flat on the left. Tell them to fix it." Olivia smiled, half amused. "Nana, we're still in progress. It's fine." Margaret's gaze slid to Imran's camera. "You're getting plenty of my side of the family." "Yes," she said. "I don't want to see 300 photos of the groom's cousins and 3 of my friends." Imran nodded. "You're on the top of the list," he said. "We'll do a dedicated set with you and your guests at cocktail hour." She sniffed, unconvinced, but turned away. For the next hour, Imran moved quietly around her, capturing genuine moments and carefully avoiding the few times she snapped at vendors. "Why are these flowers more pink than blush?" You call this champagne cold? Why is the music so loud during setup? People are trying to get ready. Maya caught his eye once in the hallway and mouthed, "She's a lot." He filed it away, stayed focused. The ceremony went flawlessly. Golden latte afternoon light washed over the aisle. Imran caught the exact second Olivia's father's jaw tightened with emotion. The moment the groom, Daniel, saw her and his eyes instantly filled. The clasped hands, the exchanged glances, the brief stumble over a vow that turned into shared laughter, making everyone exhale. He hit every crucial shot on the list: processional, vows, rings, the kiss, the triumphant walk back down the aisle with petals in the air, cocktail hour, family formals, bridal party chaos. He choreographed it all. Half director, half documentarian. He made sure to pull Margaret and her friends aside for multiple group shots. "Ladies, you look incredible," he said. "Let's get one here by the fountain and then one on the terrace." They preened. Margaret adjusted her necklace, tilted her chin, and allowed him to pose her, though not without commentary. "Make sure you get my good side," she said, "and don't make my arms look fat. I hate how photographers never think about that." "I've got you," he said, and he did. He'd learned how to pose anyone to flatter them. The reception kicked off. Speeches, first dance, cake cutting, bouquet toss, all of it captured from multiple angles. At one point, just before the last dance, Olivia pulled him aside. "Thank you," she said, sincerity in every word. "You've been amazing today. I feel like you've saved at least 3 minor disasters." He laughed. "That's in the package," he joked lightly. "It's in the fine print, crisis manager included." He went home that night exhausted, but satisfied. He backed up the files to 3 separate drives before taking off his shoes. He checked the previews. The photos were beautiful, clean, emotional, technically solid. The next morning he sent Olivia a short email. "Congratulations again. I'll have a sneak peek for you in 5-7 days. Full gallery in 6-8 weeks as per the contract. Hope you both got some sleep." She replied within an hour. "Thank you so much, Imran. Yesterday was perfect. Can't wait to see the photos." He smiled and got to work. Over the next week, he culled thousands of images down to the best. He edited a curated set of 80 previews and delivered them on day 6. He watched the notification, gallery viewed, then another, gallery shared. He waited. No reply. No wow, thank you. From Olivia, no love these. From Daniel, it was a little unusual but not unheard of. People got busy. Honeymoons, family in town, life. 2 days later, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello? Is this Mr. Malik?" A woman's sharp voice demanded. "Yes, this is Imran. This is Margaret Doyle," she said. "The previews you sent are unacceptable." His stomach dropped. "Unacceptable? How, ma'am?" he asked carefully. "The lighting is wrong. The angles are wrong. You hardly have any photos of my friends, and you made my arms look huge. I told you specifically about that. I'm sorry you're unhappy," he said, keeping his tone neutral. "The preview is just a portion. The full gallery will have hundreds more. We can also build your album with your favorite images." "I don't want an album," she snapped. "I want proof that you're not incompetent. You missed several important moments." "Which moments?" he asked, opening his editing software to check the look on Olivia's face when she saw the cake. "The moment Daniel hugged my brother. The exact second my friend Eleanor tripped over her dress. It was hilarious and you didn't get it." Imran scrolled. He had Olivia and the cake, Daniel hugging multiple relatives, someone tripping in the background of a candid. "I have those," he said. "They just weren't in the preview set. I can mark them for you in the full gallery when it's ready." "Well, I didn't see them," she said. "And the ones I did see? You made me look old." He almost laughed at the absurdity, then caught himself. "Mrs. Doyle, I can do some light retouching to soften lines if you'd like, but I don't do heavy Photoshop that changes how people actually look. That's part of my style, as we discussed." "I didn't read your style," she said. "I trusted you. That was clearly a mistake." He felt the shift. "Olivia and Daniel seemed happy on the day," he said. "Have they seen the previews?" She hesitated a fraction of a second there, reserving judgment until the full gallery. "But I can tell already this is not what we paid for. I'm still within the contract timeline," he said quietly. "If you want, I can prioritize your wedding and deliver in 4 weeks instead of 6 to 8, at no extra charge." "I don't care about your timeline," she said. "I care that you've ruined my granddaughter's Unsanalifa time day." You should be ashamed." The call ended with her demanding corrections that made no sense. He hung up feeling a little rattled, but he comforted himself with the facts. He'd done his job. He had proof, a contract, photos, emails. What he didn't know was that while he was still working on edits, Margaret was already working on her own masterpiece, a story, not in the gallery, online. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks later. Imran was at his desk, working on another wedding, when an email notification popped up from a future bride. Subject line, "Need to cancel." His heart sank. He opened it. "Hi Imran, I'm so sorry to do this, but after seeing some recent reviews and hearing a few things, we've decided to go in a different direction for photography. We really appreciate your time." No explanation beyond that. He frowned, opened a new tab, and typed his own business name into Google. His 4.9 star rating had dropped. 238. His chest went tight. He clicked a T. The top of the review lists at a 1-star entry from M. Doyle. "Do not trust this photographer with your wedding," it began in all caps. She called him careless, rude, unprofessional, claimed he missed key moments, ignored the family's requests, and refused to fix obvious mistakes. She said his turnaround time was ridiculously slow and that he hid behind a contract full of fine print. She ended with, "Older clients, especially beware. He talks a good game but doesn't respect people who have lived longer than him." He clicked Yelp, same review, different phrasing, Facebook, again. On a local brides group, someone had screenshotted her full rant. "Ladies, consider this a warning," she'd written. "My granddaughter's photos are ruined. We paid top dollar and were treated like trash. I'm taking legal action. Don't let this happen to you," underneath. Comments were beginning to stack up. That's awful." Following, "I was considering booking him. Do you have samples of his work?" Margaret had responded with carefully selected screenshots from the preview gallery, harshly cropped, zoomed into unflattering expressions, captured mid-blink or mid-low so everyone looked weird. Without context, without the full set, they looked not great. Imran's hands shook slightly as he scrolled. He opened his email. There it was, a second cancellation. Then a third. Each referenced recent reviews or what we've heard in the community. He tried to breathe. He emailed Olivia directly. "Hey, hope you and Daniel are doing well. I've seen Mrs. Doyle's reviews and I'm really concerned. Can we talk? Have you had a chance to look at your full gallery? It's ready. I can send you the link today." No response. He sent a follow-up 2 days later. Still nothing. He delivered the full gallery anyway, with a polite email and a note that they could request minor adjustments within 14 days. Gallery viewed.no reply. In the meantime, Margaret's campaign escalated. She left comments under his Instagram posts. "Wish our photos looked this good. Too bad you didn't try this hard for my granddaughter." She messaged other brides who had tagged him, asking privately if they'd had any issues and hinting at ongoing legal matters. He reached out to a lawyer friend. "Can I do anything about this?" he asked. His friend sighed. "Defamation cases are tough," he said. "Expensive, slow. You do have a contract, timestamps everything, which helps. But you might want to start with cease and desist letters, reporting her reviews to platforms, and asking satisfied clients to leave honest feedback to balance things out." Imran did all of that. He drafted a respectful but firm cease and desist letter, had his lawyer polish it, and sent it via email and certified mail to Margaret's address. She ignored it. He reported her reviews as misleading and malicious. Some platforms took them down. Others left them, citing personal experience and opinion. He posted a careful statement on his business page. "Recently, one client has expressed dissatisfaction with her experience. While I can't share details due to privacy, I stand by the quality of my work and my commitment to every couple. My door is always open for honest conversation." He begged past clients for updated reviews. Many delivered, writing heartfelt paragraphs about how his photos captured the best days of their lives, but the algorithm always floated the recent drama to the top, and Margaret wasn't done. She filed a complaint with the State Consumer Affairs Office, claiming fraudulent business practices. She messaged 2 of the venues he frequently shot at, accusing him of using their name to lure clients he later disappoints. One venue owner called him directly. "Imran, I believe you," she said. "We love your work, but I'd be lying if I said it hasn't made us nervous. She told us she's very influential in the country club circuit. I have every file," he said desperately. "I can show you the gallery, the contract, emails." I know, she said gently. Just be careful. 6 months in, Imran's bookings had dropped by nearly 40. He stopped sleeping properly. Night after night he lay awake replaying the wedding in his mind. Did he miss something? Could he have positioned Margaret better? Sent more previews? His parents noticed the change before he admitted it to them. You're hardly eating, his mother said one evening. Who is this woman? Why is she doing this? I don't know, he said, voice tight. I think she just can't stand the idea she's not in control. His father looked at him with tired eyes. You have the truth, he said, but sometimes the truth needs a louder microphone. The breaking point came with a plain envelope. Inside, a small claims court summons. Plaintiff Margaret Doyle. Defendant Imran Malik. Amount sought $7,500. Stated reasons: emotional distress, ruined wedding, substandard work, and the cost of hiring a new photographer for a reshoot. A reshoot? He muttered, incredulous. You can't redo a wedding. He flipped through the attached statement. Margaret had written pages of melodramatic narrative. She claimed he'd failed to show up on time. His metadata proved otherwise. That he'd refused to take direction. He had recorded shot lists with her requests. That he'd been dismissive and borderline disrespectful. His emails remained painfully polite. She even hinted, without flatly saying it, that some guests had felt uncomfortable around him. That one line alone made his skin crawl. The quiet implication, a smear you can't completely scrub away. He stared at the papers, anger finally burning through the fog of fear. He could go to small claims court, stand in a generic fluorescent-lit room, argue his case to an overworked local judge with 24 cases on the docket, or he could try something else. He opened his laptop, fingers moving almost on autopilot, and searched TV court showcase submission. Within 10 minutes he found the application form for Justice for All with Judge Helena Cole. Tell us about your case, the form said. He started typing. He told them about the wedding, the contract, the preview, the call, the reviews, the cancellations, the complaint letters, the lawsuit. He attached screenshots, contracts, galleries, deposit records. He attached the cease and desist letter, the summons. He hit submit. He didn't expect to hear back quickly. The next afternoon, his phone rang. Hi, is this Imran Malik? A bright voice chirped. This is Jenna with Justice for All with Judge Helena. We got your application. Do you have a few minutes to talk about your case? He closed his eyes, exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Yes, he said. Yes, I do. He had no idea that on the other side of this call, producers were already pulling public records on Margaret Doyle, or that what they'd find would make this case a producer's dream. And Margaret's worst nightmare. The producers loved the case. A hard-working small business owner with documentation for everything. An entitled older woman with a history they discovered of complaints, bans, and misunderstandings with service providers. Television gold. They booked it. The show would pay any small claims judgment, travel expenses, a modest appearance fee. It wasn't about the money for Imran at that point, though. It was about finally saying, in a room where it mattered, here's what's true. Margaret, when the invitation came, saw it as an opportunity. Of course she did. She pictured herself sitting in a smart blazer, hands neatly folded, explaining to a national audience how she'd been betrayed by an arrogant young photographer. She didn't gather real evidence. She gathered performance props. She printed a handful of the worst-looking screenshots she could find from his previews, mid-blink shots, weird angles, unflattering crops she'd made herself. She asked 2 of her friends to write letters about how upset she'd been after the wedding, how they'd never seen her so distressed. Neither friend had actually seen the full photo gallery. It didn't matter to Margaret. What mattered was that they described her pain. She chose her outfit carefully, a pale blue skirt suit to project serenity, low heels, simple pearls, not too flashy, not too plain, respectable, safe, older lady chic. She rehearsed her story in the bathroom mirror. I've lived a long life, Judge, she'd say. I know when I'm being taken advantage of. She practiced the right moment to let her voice crack, the right moment to dab her eye with a tissue. In her mind, the ending was already written. The judge would sympathize with the older grandmother, scold the creative young contractor for hiding behind a contract, and maybe award her the full $7,500. She might even get to throw in a little lecture about kids these days on national TV. Behind the scenes, a very different preparation was happening. Judge Helena sat in her office the morning of the taping, reading through the case file her team had assembled. Imran's sections were neat, chronological, almost clinical. Contract, email thread, preview gallery delivery confirmation, full gallery delivery, cease and desist letter, copies of Margaret's online reviews, with timestamps inches away from cancellation emails from his other clients, revenue charts showing a dip in bookings starting exactly 1 week after her first public rant, and then there was Margaret's section, her small claims lawsuit of course, but also past consumer complaints, 2 prior small claims cases against a caterer and a florist, both dismissed. A note from a local banquet hall, client banned due to repeated verbal abuse of staff. Screenshots from a pet groomer's Facebook, quietly warning other businesses in a private group about her. Judge Helena flipped a page and saw something else. A short, shaky email from Olivia. Dear Judge Helena, it said, I heard my grandmother is bringing our wedding photographer to your show. I'm not asking to be on the program, but I want you to know. Imran was wonderful. The day was beautiful. The photos are gorgeous. My husband and I had no complaints. We tried to stay out of it because my grandmother can be intense. We're so sorry this turned into a mess for him. Attached, a selfie of Olivia and Daniel holding a framed print of one of Imran's photos, both beaming. Judge Helena sat back in her chair for a moment, thinking. When the bailiff finally called, all rise, and she walked out to the bench, she already had a good idea of who was who. Imran stood at his podium in a simple dark shirt and tie, clutching a navy folder like a lifeline. Margaret stood at hers like she owned the place. She nodded to the audience when they glanced her way, lips pressed into a tight, controlled line, the face of a woman who came to be vindicated. Be seated, Judge Helena said. In the matter of Malik versus Doyle, Mr. Malik, you're the plaintiff. You're suing Miss Doyle for $30,000 in lost income and damages. Miss Doyle, you're countersuing for $7,500. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Imran said. That's correct, Margaret replied, her tone already carrying a faint edge of indignation. Mr. Malik, Judge Helena said, in 2 or 3 minutes, tell me what this is about. Imran took a breath. Your Honor, I'm a wedding photographer, he began. Miss Doyle hired me to photograph her granddaughter's wedding. We signed a contract that spelled out my services, timeline, and style. I shot the wedding, delivered a preview gallery within 6 days and the full gallery within 6 weeks inside the agreed timeline. I did extra work for her and her friends. He swallowed. After I sent the preview, Miss Doyle called and said she was unhappy. I offered to prioritize their gallery, do minor edits, work with them on an album. Instead, she posted multiple 1-star reviews, wrote in local wedding groups that I'd ruined the event, filed complaints against my business, contacted venues I work with, and filed a lawsuit. My bookings dropped almost 40%. I have documentation for all of this. He pushed the folder toward the clerk. Throughout his explanation, Margaret rolled her eyes, shook her head, and muttered things like that's not what happened, just loud enough to be picked up by the mix. Judge Helena noticed, but she let it slide for now. Miss Doyle, she turned. You'll get your turn. For the moment, don't speak while he's speaking, Margaret pressed. Her lips together, offended. Judge Helena looked through the first few documents, nodding slightly. Miss Doyle, she said, why are you suing Mr. Malik? Margaret straightened, launching into her rehearsed speech. Your Honor, I have been planning events longer than this young man has been alive, she began. I hired him because I thought I was supporting a small business. I was wrong. The photos he sent were subpar. He missed multiple important moments. He made me look terrible despite my clear instructions. When I tried to talk to him, he hid behind his contract and refused to fix anything. She pulled out her printed screenshots and waved them vaguely. These are just a few examples, she said. Do these look like professional photos to you? My granddaughter is heartbroken. I have been sick over this. Miss Doyle, Judge Helena said calmly, put the papers on the podium. I'll look. Waving them at me doesn't make them clearer. A few people in the audience smirked. Margaret flushed slightly and complied. Do you have any emails from your granddaughter complaining? The judge asked. She's too upset to get involved, Margaret said quickly, but I am her grandmother. I speak for my family. Do you have any written request you made to Mr. Malik asking him to refund you money or fix specific issues? The judge pressed. I called him, she said. I'm old-fashioned. I prefer the phone. So you have no written record? The judge clarified. I shouldn't need one, Margaret said. When someone my age tells you something, you should listen. There it was again. I understand you're 70, Judge Helena said evenly. I'm 82, so let's leave age out of it for a moment and stick to facts. A faint ripple went through the audience. Margaret's eyes flashed. That's exactly the problem with your generation, she snapped before she could stop herself. No respect. Judge Helena's gaze sharpened, but she stayed calm. We'll come back to respect, she said. First, I want to know, did you or did you not sign this contract that clearly states preview in 7 days, full gallery in 6-8 weeks, artistic style as per portfolio? Margaret barely glanced at it. I sign a lot of things, she said. I didn't read every word. I trusted him. That doesn't give him the right to do a poor job. Judge Helena's eyebrow lifted slightly, that tiny, deadly sign veteran viewers had learned to recognize. Let me be very clear, she said. You signed a contract you now claim you didn't fully read. You then received exactly what the contract promised. A gallery delivered in the promised time frame, in the style you saw before hiring him, correct? Margaret folded her arms. It is not my responsibility to babysit young contractors, she said. If they get it wrong, they should fix it. No questions asked. That's how service works. And if they didn't get it wrong? Judge Helena asked. Then they admit it anyway. If an elder tells them they did, Margaret shot back. That's called respect. The room practically hummed with tension. Judge Helena leaned back, watching her for a long beat. Miss Doyle, she said slowly, in the last 5 years, how many other businesses have you filed complaints against? Margaret gave a tiny, knowing smile, still thinking this tracked in her favor. Several, she said, because unlike most people, I actually hold standards. Name a few, the judge said. Margaret launched into it like she was reciting achievements. The caterer who served lukewarm food at my friend's anniversary. The florist who used the wrong shade of roses. The pet groomer who didn't cut my dog's fur evenly. The banquet hall staff who were rude to me when I pointed out their mistakes. As she talked, she didn't realize she was describing the exact same pattern. Minor issue. Exaggerated story. Nuclear reaction. Judge Helena let her go on, then interrupted with surgical precision. And in any of those situations, she asked, did a court ever rule that those businesses failed you? They settled, Margaret said proudly. They refunded me, gave me free services, because they knew I was right, or, Judge Helena said quietly, because they were tired of dealing with you. Margaret's face tightened. Young lady, she began, voice rising, when you've lived as long as I have, and that was it. She leaned forward, jabbed a finger in the judge's direction, and delivered the line that detonated her entire case. Young lady, you need to learn to respect your elders. When someone my age tells you something, you don't question it. You don't hide behind paperwork. You just do what you're told. That's how the world worked when it still made sense. Silence. Total, absolute silence. Imran felt the hairs on his arms stand up. The audience looked from Margaret to Judge Helena, eyes wide, as if watching someone calmly poke a sleeping lion in the eye. Judge Helena didn't blink. She reached very slowly for the thick folder on her desk with Margaret's name on it, and when she opened it, the look in her eyes said one thing. Enough, Miss Doyle, Judge Helena said, her voice suddenly ice-smooth. Since you've brought up age and respect, let's talk about what you've done with your 70 years. She opened the folder and pulled out the first document. In the last 5 years, she began, you have filed. Let's see. 13 formal complaints with Consumer Affairs about various businesses. She held up the page. Of those 13, 10 were found to be without merit. 2 were closed after the businesses offered small goodwill credits. 1 is still pending because, and I quote, the complainant has not provided sufficient evidence to support her claims. That's not the record of a vigilant customer, Miss Doyle. That's the record of a serial complainer. Margaret's mouth opened. I was only... Next, Judge Helena cut in, flipping to another page. 2 years ago, the Lakeside Banquet Hall banned you from booking events on their property. Their written reason, repeated verbal abuse of staff, unreasonable demands, and threats to damage our reputation. Do you deny you were banned? They overreacted, Margaret said weakly. Their staff, yes or no? The judge snapped. Yes, she muttered. They banned me, for no good reason. 3 separate online reviews show you attempted to publicly smear them afterward, the judge went on. Same pattern, different target. Another piece of paper. You also filed a small claims case against a florist for emotional distress because they used cream-colored roses instead of pure white. That case was dismissed. They lied about what they could get, Margaret insisted. And another, the judge continued. You complained to animal control about a groomer endangering your dog. The investigation found no wrongdoing. The report notes, complainant became hostile when informed. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Judge Helena set the papers down, looked directly at Margaret. Do you see the pattern? I'm seeing, Miss Doyle? She asked quietly, because I see a woman who has made a hobby out of punishing people who don't meet her exact expectations. Margaret's hands clenched on the podium. I just refuse to accept poor service, she said. That's not a crime. No, Judge Helena said, but what is a problem is using your age like a weapon, telling everyone respect your elders while you show very little respect for anyone else. She flipped to the last page, and then she said, there's this email. She lifted a single sheet from your granddaughter, Olivia. Margaret froze. She wrote to the show, the judge said. She says, and I quote, Imran was wonderful. The day was beautiful. The photos are gorgeous. My husband and I had no complaints. My grandmother is the only one unhappy, and we're deeply sorry she dragged him into this. She held the paper up. Attached, she added, is a photo of your granddaughter and her husband holding a framed print of one of Mr. Malik's photos, both smiling. Does that look like a devastated bride whose wedding was ruined to you, Miss Doyle? The monitor behind the judge flashed the image for the audience. Olivia and Daniel glowing, holding a large print of their first kiss under a string of lights. Margaret stared at it like it was a betrayal. She shouldn't have involved herself, she stammered. She doesn't understand. Young people never, Miss Doyle, Judge Helena interrupted, her voice suddenly steel. Stop blaming young people for your inability to accept reality. Your own granddaughter says she's happy. The supposed victim of this ruined wedding tells me in writing that this man did his job beautifully. She turned slightly toward Imran. Mr. Malik, she said, softening just a fraction. I've reviewed your contract, your delivery timelines, your galleries. You did exactly what you promised. In fact, you did more. Then back to Margaret. You, on the other hand, she continued, signed a contract you didn't read, demanded exceptions. You hadn't negotiated, ignored every attempt at resolution that didn't include a full confession and surrender. You then went on a months-long campaign to damage this man's livelihood, posting misleading reviews, spreading half-truths, and hinting at impropriety to scare off clients. Margaret shook her head, desperately trying to regain control. I was just warning people, she said. That's my right. He should have respected my feedback. No, Judge Helena said sharply. You weren't warning people. You were punishing him because he wouldn't rewrite reality to match your feelings. She leaned forward, eyes burning. And then you came into my courtroom, looked at me, a woman 13 years older than you, and called me young lady as if my age, my experience, my title mean nothing unless I bend to your version of events. The audience was dead silent. I have been on this earth 82 years, Miss Doyle, the judge went on. I have seen wars, recessions, movements for justice. I have spent decades in courtrooms listening to people just like you insist that respect is something they are owed automatically. She let the next words land like hammer blows. Respect is not owed, it is earned, based on your conduct toward this photographer, toward other businesses, toward your own granddaughter. You have not earned deference, you have earned consequences. Margaret's face had gone bloodless. Her lips trembled. You can't talk to me like that, she whispered. I'm 70 years old. I've given so much to my community. Your age doesn't give you immunity, Judge Helena shot back. It gives you more time to know better, and clearly you have not used that time well. She straightened, her voice crisp. I find in favor of the plaintiff, Mr. Malik, for the full amount of $30,000 in documented lost bookings and damages, she said. Miss Doyle, your countersuit is dismissed as frivolous. You will receive nothing. In fact, if this were my brick-and-mortar courtroom instead of a television show, I would seriously consider sanctions for abuse of the legal system. Margaret swayed slightly, gripping the podium to steady herself. 30,000. She breathed. Yes, Judge Helena said. 30,000. A number that might for once make you pause before you launch your next crusade. She wasn't finished. And let me give you something money can't buy, she added. A lesson you should have learned long ago. She looked her dead in the eye. When you demand respect your elders while behaving with arrogance, cruelty, and dishonesty, you cheapen that phrase for every older person who has earned our respect. You turn a value into a weapon. And the day you pointed that weapon at the wrong people, at this photographer, at this courtroom, is the day it finally backfired. She picked up the gavel. Case dismissed. Bang. The sound echoed through the studio. Imran exhaled a breath he felt like he'd been holding for a year. His shoulders sagged, his eyes shone, and he blinked fast, not wanting to break down on camera. The audience erupted into applause. They weren't supposed to, strictly speaking, but they did. A raw, involuntary reaction. Even the bailiff allowed himself the tiniest smile. Margaret stood frozen, still clutching the podium, eyes glassy, mouth working silently. The persona composed, superior, untouchable had cracked, and what showed underneath was just small. The bailiff gently escorted her out. Her pearls, her pressed suit, her carefully rehearsed lines, none of it could help her now. 2 weeks later, the episode aired. Within hours, the clip of her saying, "Young lady, you need to learn to respect your elders," to an 8-year-old judge was all over social media. People stitched it, duetted it, reacted to it. They paired her line with Judge Helena's response, "Respect is not owed, it is earned." Memes were made, comment sections filled. Imagine lecturing someone older than you about respecting elders. This is for every server, stylist, photographer, and small business owner who's ever been bullied by someone hiding behind age. Shout out to Imran for keeping receipts and to Judge Helena for using them. The hashtag respect is earned trended for 3 days. Imran's inbox exploded. Old clients wrote to say how happy they were for him. Strangers from other countries sent messages of support. His booking calendar, which had been frighteningly empty for the coming year, started filling again. Not just with local weddings. People were flying him in. "We saw your episode," one bride wrote. "You handled everything with such professionalism. That's exactly who I want at my wedding." He printed Olivia's email and framed it behind his desk. He printed one more thing too, a still from the episode where Judge Helena is mid-sentence, eyes blazing, saying, "Respect is not a senior citizen discount on bad behavior." He hung it where he could see it every day. As for Margaret, in local vendor groups, her face became a quiet warning. Screenshots of the episode circulated among caterers, photographers, florists, planners. "If this woman inquires," one post read, "run. She'd wanted power, control, the satisfaction of making someone twice her junior bow and apologize publicly. Instead, she'd been forced to pay $30,000 to the person she tried to destroy, and she'd given an entire generation of workers a new line to hold on to the next time someone tried to bully them with age. Respect isn't free, you earn it."